Okay, hey guys, welcome to my channel, Rated Nurse Nay. Today's video, I'm talking about what happens when you get sick in nursing school. What happens? First off, what I like to say is just don't do it. Don't get sick in nursing school. Tell your kids, don't get sick. Tell your spouse, don't get sick. Tell nobody to die. And they don't make it easy all the time when you have to make stuff up or go to funerals and stuff. Just don't do it. Don't get sick. Put the word out, send text messages. Don't get sick and don't die. There you go. No, but really, I have been sick. I've had to call out of clinical 2 times during my nursing school journey because my son was sick. And then I've also been sick during clinical and had to leave clinical early. And it's just never fun not knowing like what is what. 2 times when my son had a stomach bug, basically woke up at 2 in the morning throwing up and vomiting and stuff, diarrhea and everything, and I was like, oh my god, I cannot go in. So I had to communicate that on the floor, basically like I was calling out of a call on the unit to let them know I couldn't come in. Then I had to notify my teacher, my clinical teacher, to let her know, and then I had to email somebody to let them know like, hey, my son is sick, I'm sick, we can't come in, I can't come in. Okay, but it's still nerve-wracking because then I had to meet with them afterwards to make up. Yeah, so, and then one time this semester I got sick during clinical, probably with like a stomach bug or something, but literally I'm 4 hours, 5 hours into clinical and I started feeling terrible, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headache. It was just awful, and I was trying to push through because I did not like want to have to make it up, but I couldn't go into my patient's room myself, and I couldn't take care of patients if I myself was super nauseous and vomiting and diarrhea. Like I couldn't do it. So I had to basically call out and leave, which I'm grateful that I was able to do as a student, because when you're a nurse on the floor, baby, if you sick, just don't come in, because it will be hard. Like what I seen with my own eyes, hard for them to get a nurse to fill in when you're already there, even if you are sick. It would be very difficult. So I am grateful as students, you know, that I was able to, you know, to leave because I wasn't feeling well. I was legitimately sick. But anyway, so what happens when you're sick in nursing school? So the first thing is, I would say before you even start the semester, read your student nurse handbook and know what your options are. Know what happens if you have to miss an exam, if you have to miss a clinical, a lab, or a class. Know what those requirements are, and make sure you have the contact, you know, your teacher's contacts, your clinical teacher contacts, all those things, like save in your phone just in case something were to happen. Okay, save that stuff in your phone so that you can communicate. The biggest thing is communication, letting them know what's going on, and then making sure you have your proper documentation to cover yourself. So communication. So for me, my school, in the handbook, it says we basically get one freebie miss of class, and then any other class time that we miss, we have to email basically our teacher with a legitimate reason of why we're missing. Clinical is not to be trifled with. Okay, for clinical, whatever you miss, you have to make up, and in order to make it up, you have to have a legit excuse, which means you have to be legitimately sick and then go to the doctor and get an excuse to make those hours up. So for me, when I was sick during clinical, my teacher actually saw me, you know, in my state, the state that I was in, so she vouched for me and was like, okay, no, this girl is sick, she's going home, you know. So she, you know, we rescheduled later. But if you're at home and you can't come in, you may actually have to go to the doctor and get a doctor's excuse to turn that in so that you can make up your clinical. Because if you don't do the proper steps, you can get, in my school, you can get a clinical variance or you can get in trouble. And I think you get 3 clinical variances, which is like a write-up, and 3 of them in a semester, and they will kick you out. Okay, so it's not worth it. Do your proper documentation. But anyway, so when I got sick, for me, my process, I had to call the clinical unit, let the unit know. I had to email my teacher, email my clinical instructor, and then make sure I went to the doctor, got my doctor's excuse, and turned that in, you know. And then once you do that, you know the proper steps, communicate, proper documentation, you heal up and you get better. And then you reach out to make up your hours if you have to make them up. And that's it. You know, it's not scary. Unfortunately, stuff does happen. You get sick, your family gets sick. But just if you read your student handbook and know the rules, and then have those numbers saved in your phone, then you know who to contact. You're not going to have to be like scrambling, looking like, what do I do? Another thing it has in our student handbook, it talks about even dealing with like deaths. If there is a death in the immediate family, you have to like literally turn in the obituary, like not the obituary, but the what is that, the program for the funeral, what's the proper word? I'm gonna say the funeral program or the funeral brochure or flyer. Like you have to turn that in. If you end up missing like a test or a clinical day, you have to turn that in as proof that you really did go to a funeral to be able to make up whatever you miss. So that's for my school. For your school, it might be different. And so each thing kind of has a different, each maybe issue or difficulty comes up that you have to miss something. It has a different thing that you have to turn in. You know, if you're sick, you have to turn in a doctor's excuse. If it's for a death, immediate family, you have to turn in that program for the funeral, or something that can vouch saying that there actually was a funeral, in order for you to make those things up. So yeah, read your student handbook, communicate what communicate who you need to communicate with, and yeah. So I hope this was helpful to you guys, and see you in the next video.